Hey guys, I'm gonna show you actually some interesting things today. And a lot of people maybe don't even give a shit about this stuff. It doesn't really matter to me. I find it fascinating that the stuff is still around and you can get it and it costs nothing. Like I think I paid like 10 bucks for this old like nasty old camp stove, right? You know, look in there, I haven't got a clue whether or not inside of here, whether there's spiders building nests in here. I'm going to take a chance that this is going to work. But I want to show you something, which is kind of cool. And so, like, you can breathe some new life into these things. If you've got one that's like being completely uncooperative and you didn't pay a lot for it. Like, here's a problem, okay? So the earlier models, this one, I looked at this, I think this says 1 of 86, the date. So January of 1986 was when this thing was manufactured. And it's one of these apparent easy light things. Well, you know, as time went on with Coleman and a lot of other manufacturers and products that were made by other companies too, they started to cheapen out to try and continue to make the same profits, you know, and I don't blame them because that's what companies do. But this easy light system with the O-rings and that, instead of the graphite packing and the nuts and the little lighting lever and that did the cleaning with the generator. This is the generator here, so on and so forth. I've tested this. Some pressure pumps into it, but it leaks at the valve, and I could smell fuel at the valve after I pumped it up. It was just kind of strange, but I got something I want to show you because, like I said, I think I paid like 5 or 10 bucks for this thing, and it really wasn't a whole lot of money. So I got something really cool to show you later on too. One of the oldest lanterns in my collection. That there is from 1948, but that's not the point. So we're gonna see if I can do this here without turning this into a fiasco, okay? There's that. I'm gonna try and get this square. Yeah, forgive me, I'm not much of a videographer, okay? You know, bloody sue me if you don't like it. But instead of this good, no, and I'm not being a traitor here, guys. This is just the least desirable of all the gas pressure fuel tanks, valve assemblies. It just is. Like, the later versions are not as desirable as the earlier ones are. But what we get is this. And this will, like, this is a conversion to use 1 pound propane cylinders so that you don't have to worry about Coleman fuel and you don't have to worry about, check valves and O-rings and graphite packing and fuel cap gaskets and a lot of other things. And for someone that really doesn't understand or doesn't really want to fix this stuff, this might be a really valid option. It just might be. So, but I want to show you this stuff. I'm actually even going to try it out myself for the first time. Kind of cool. But we'll grab the camera. What I'm going to do is we'll screw this onto the cylinder. This cylinder has got some fuel left in it. It's been kicking around for a while. We'll screw this on here. Right, and there's like, this is used to hold it on apparently. It would be nice if they'd made it so it would hook on the top of the way. But I find that rather interesting, I really do. I mean, here we go. We got away. Here's a a piece that I think you're going to find not too many of these $5 and $10 cook stoves still have. And this is the handle that is used to lift the grate when it's hotter than a motherfucker. I don't know, maybe I'll never need that, but that's not exactly what I'd be using to make my coffee camping, but there's always that chance, right? So, and I watched a video about this and I thought it was great because the guy that was doing this is talking about this stansport, right? Stansport propane converter. This is available on Amazon. And you know, honestly, when I'm done messing around with this and showing you guys, it's going right back in the package. My plan is to actually repair this because I'm a Stoddard Coleman fan, and you know, no matter what is wrong with these things, it's like more of a challenge to get it to work than it is anything else. Fear not. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just fun to mess around with. So, but this is an interesting find here to come with this, because I've seen dozens, and I mean dozens and dozens and dozens of restoration videos. This is a model 431 from 1986, 14,000 BTU. Yeah, 14,000 BTU, 2-burner, like camping stove. But this is an actual Coleman part. Like, I don't even know if I'm holding that in the right place. Like I said, I'm not a good videographer. Sue me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to light this up and see if I can show you that it actually works, first of all, and that it's got some, you know, you can control the damn thing. And then I'm going to show you my 1948 lantern over there. That's actually the oldest lantern in my collection. It was manufactured in March of 1948. And even though it's not, you know, super old to me, it's reasonably new to me. I bought it from a marketplace vendor. There's some things I want to tell you about when it comes to check valves. Just a personal experience, I guess. So give me a sec. I'm going to get my torch, because I don't really have one of those long stem lighters, and I'm not sticking my bloody hand in there. Get over it. All right, I don't know. I haven't got a clue what's going to happen here, but we're going to find out, aren't we? First of all, we'll close that. So, on the 2-burner models, apparently the right burner ignites first. And since we don't have to worry about a generator because propane is already under pressure in the bottle, we don't have to worry about the propane being vaporized like the liquid fuel would need to be when we reference Coleman fuel in a fuel tank and assembly like this. So we don't need to worry about that. But we do need to make sure that the valve to the second burner is closed. And unless we want to light both burners at the same time, which I'm not really sure I want to do at the moment. Yeah, I can light down through there anyways, doesn't really matter. So with a handy trusty torch. Here, let me see if I can, actually, I don't think I'm going to be able to bring you guys over here to show you, because I don't got 3 hands. And trying to hold the camera with other appendages on my body isn't going to work, because they're just damn short. All right. Okay, so that's going. Let's see what happens here. Well, what do you know? Holy. All right, we're gonna bring you over here and show you this. Look at here at the control we got here. We can turn that baby down. And we can turn it right the hell up. Now, I have a feeling that that orange flame and such is probably a direct product of all the dust that's inside of this thing. Now, I'm gonna try not to set this phone on fire because I have a feeling we're way too close. But what I'm gonna do is light my torch again, and I'm gonna light the other burner. And I have a feeling it's already going. We're just gonna open that up. I can see heat. You know, it's very unfortunate that it's so bright, but you can hear, like, I'm gonna turn this down. You can hear the sound of the gas literally being regulated down and back up. So, I mean, if you were in a pinch and you were planning on going camping and you had a failure of this here, you know, maybe you know somebody that has this stansport propane, the stansport propane converter for these stoves, or maybe you're smart enough, or you got some parts kicking around that you can get something like that working again and use your Coleman fuel. But in order to put something like that back in operation, kaboom, just like that, away we go. And it's got good regulation too, which is kind of cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna shut this side off. No need of burning that, but down in there you might be able to see some blue flame. But I'm just gonna nix that. That side's done. Okay, that's off, closed up. We're gonna knock that down a bit. Turn it back up so you can hear it rip. And then I'm gonna shut it off. Just like that, boom. And so there's the stansport propane converter that converts the older style, you know, liquid fuel, gas pressure fuel tank and generator, gas vaporizing generator, into something that you can use quickly. And I think I paid like 25 bucks for that, at least Canadian. Now I'm in Canada, so yeah, completely interesting. I thought that was actually quite interesting. So that's not too hot. Let's see if we'll get rid of that, and we'll go over here. Well, so that is the now it's important for me to mention that these are Canadian products. You might find, well, first of all, that's a Canadian product. Coleman manufactured a lot of products in Wichita. I have a lot of American Coleman manufactured products from Wichita in my collection, but most of the really sort of antiquated pieces I have are pieces that have been in Canada for quite some time and remained to be discovered until I actually got them. Now, the gentleman that sold me this lantern had obviously done some work on it. He's a collector as well. These were multiples. This and 3 other lanterns he offered me were multiples in his collection that he was looking to get rid of, which was fine. But he was also looking to get some stuff that I really didn't want to part with. I made him a reasonable offer in cash money, and he really wouldn't accept anything other than what he wanted out of my collection, which I wasn't willing to part with. So I parted with him. That was basically the way that one went. what I'm going to do here is just move that up. And we're going to go over here. We're going to talk a little bit about the 236. So this is a 236 from March of 1948. This is actually the keep that over there. This is actually the oldest lantern in my collection, and recently purchased. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. I try not to worry about perfect. You know what I worry about? I worry about working. And one of the first things I do is make sure that it's working to my satisfaction. Now, unfortunately with this one, it really wasn't. I thought it was, or might have been, a fuel cap gasket, which I changed. Even though the one that was on it looked okay, it was a bit hard and it was a bit sort of, you know, compressed and such. So I changed it anyways. But what really wound up being the issue with this lantern was the check valve. And the check valve is down here in behind the pump. This gentleman had told me that he hadn't done anything with the pump, even though it seemed like it was pumping pressure, and it did pump pressure. When I pulled this pump rod out with the cup, the leather cup that's on the end, that leather cup broke into a million pieces. It disintegrated. No amount of oil would have fixed that. So I I put a new leather on it, which is fine. I keep this stuff in stock for repairs, and I've had it for years. I just have to go searching where my lanterns were. I have boxes and boxes and boxes full of shit. But anyways, that really wasn't the problem. The problem was the check valve, and I could take the new pump, the new rod with the new, you know, the new leather cup, properly oiled and everything, and put in there, and I could pump pressure into the lantern. And then what I do is I remove that rod and leather cup, and I put something down in there, liquid, to cover the check valve over, so I can see whether or not it's leaking, and you can see it bubbling. The funny thing was it wasn't bubbling out of the center. And I'm like, what is going on here? It looked like it was bubbling like right near the top of the tube. And oh, okay, something's up here. So I put it back in. What I did was I put the stem. The stem has a point on the end. It's supposed to seal the check valve after you're done pumping. You know, you loosen this a turn, and you pump, and then when you're done, you tighten it up, and that tightens the stem, which has a point, goes in there, and it's supposed to prevent any air from leaking back from the check valve, even if the check valve is leaking. So I did that, and I looked again with more liquid, and there was still air leaking out of there. I'm like, what in the hell is going on? So I took, I have a check valve removal tool, which is important to have if you're going to work on any Coleman product. I took my tool and I removed the check valve, and I went through the procedure. You know, you soak it in the vinegar, you clean it with the carburetor and choke cleaner. You know, don't use brake cleaner, okay, guys? Brake cleaner, it'll work, it'll take the oils off, but it's really not going to clean anything. Carb and choke cleaner. If you're going to mess around with this stuff, buy some carb and choke cleaner. It's it really, like, or Berryman's or something. Buy a can of carburetor cleaner. If you know, buy a gallon can of Berryman's, you pull the lid off, you put your stuff in, you're done. You leave it in there for 20 minutes, you pull it out. It's usually pretty good. I had cans of Berryman's when I was younger for rebuilding, like Holly carburetors for the hot rods for the guys, and I had all kinds of stuff when I was a kid, messing around. I'm old now, I don't play with cars anymore. I got a couple of two-stroke motorcycles in the garage. I'm going to show everybody that stuff later on. I'm just working through this while it's nice enough to stand outside, because pretty soon it isn't going to be nice enough to stand outside for any particular great length of time. We're going to be freezing. You know, I don't live north of the, well, I guess maybe the 49th parallel, but it gets friggin' cold here, man, in the wintertime. Like January, February, it's fucking freezing here. But anyways, so this is what I figured out about this check valve. Somebody had got it out of there, and you could clearly see maybe they had a tool, maybe they didn't. Somebody had got the check valve out, but when they put it back in, they didn't put it all the way back in. It wasn't fully seated right up to the end of the thread. And it was kind of funny because even when I was using a wrench on it with the proper tool, it seemed like it was all the way in, but it kept going. And it had a fair bit of resistance, like somebody had used like some sort of a thread sealant on it at some point prior to that. And that thread sealant was coming into play as far as getting the check valve all the way in. So I continued to drive it in. I'm like, okay, well, listen, this one of two things is going to happen. This lantern is going to become a display piece, because what I'm doing is I'm driving this in against an already stripped thread, and it's going to strip it out further, and that's going to be the end of it. Or there's thread sealant jammed in the threads down in the bottom of the tube, the pump tube in the bottom of the fount, and I'm eventually going to reach a firm and full stopping point, which is exactly what happened. I did reach a firm and full stopping point, so that was good. So I don't know, it was one of those things. It's like somebody was working on it and they knew what they were doing, but they second guessed themselves about what was happening as they were putting that check valve back in. Because I'm going to be honest with you, you would very rarely find a 1948 236 that's ready to have fuel put in it and just light it. Okay, so somebody has worked on this lantern. There is no question that somebody worked on this lantern and got it to the point that it was at when I bought it. And I paid quite a reasonable amount of money for this. I'm not going to tell you how much it was. It's not that important, but what's important is that if somebody sold it for the amount of money I got it for, and they sold it for that amount of money because they believed they were pulling one over on someone, well, that's a little dishonest, but totally understandable based on what the lantern is actually worth in good, working, and reasonable condition. I mean, we've got like a lot of chipping of the porcelain here. Although this hat is in a lot better than the one that was on it. He had another one with him and tried to get, he tried to sell me the whole bunch. And I asked him if he'd change the hat out for the one that was on the other. He said, yeah, you know what, for that money, why not? So, all right. I'm gonna light this guy, and it's not crazy. You hear that? That's the sound of technology that was made 3 years after the end of World War II. Now you tell me what you know about that's had limited attention, that was manufactured in 1948, that still works the way it was intended. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you, whoever you are, for watching this video. And I'm hoping you're enjoying this content. It's not just going to be all about lanterns and cook stoves and stuff. Later on, we're going to do some videos about pinball repair. I'm going to show you some videos about radio, ham radio. We're going to talk about wood burning. We're going to do motorcycle repair. Like, this is going to be a multifaceted channel, but I'm not going to be constantly connected to this. I have a full-time job, guys, okay? I really need to concentrate on my work, and my work is getting very busy right now. So if you see some posts and they're few and far between, Thank you very much for paying attention and watching out for them, particularly if you're subscribed and you got the bell on, you know, you get notifications. I do that with a lot of the channels that I like. But there you go. I'm like March of 1948. Like, what do you say? I don't know, kind of makes me proud of my country and proud of manufacturers and the way things were made back when my grandparents, you know, fought for our freedom. Because currently I don't think there's much fighting going on for anyone, particularly young folk. Just a whole big fight about letting more people in the country, which is literally, absolutely, unequivocally not what this country needs. Thanks for watching. I gotta go.